My name is John Brasfield, and my wife's name is Lori Brasfield. We purchased our farm in July of 1986. I almost named the farm Speculation Farm because we did not know how long our experiment would last, but now I have a feeling that we're now in it for the long haul. We run about 100 ewes. We raise both registered Dorsets and Hamp Suffolk Cross sheep, and we lamb twice a year. We have 3 daughters. They all grew up showing sheep through forage from the time they were 5, 4, and 3 years of age until they aged out at 19 and 21. Our main market is selling club or show lambs for 4-H and FFA. We lamb, as I said earlier, in both the fall and winter and spring. Therefore, we have lambs available for spring shows, which are April and May shows, and the fall shows, which are September and October usually. We also sell breeding stock, such as registered Dorset ewes and rams and commercial blackface ewes. We have a small ethnic market, and when I have extra lambs or cull ewes, I ship them to New Holland, Pennsylvania. We employ 2 livestock garden dogs to protect our sheep. They stay with the sheep 24/7. One is a Maremma, and the other is an Anatolian Shepherd Maremma cross. I do my own shearing, and if my wife is available, then I have help packing the wool. Did I mention I'm a one-man operation? Oh, I forgot to mention what makes our operation slightly different or unique. As I mentioned earlier, we run around 100 ewes, but only on 10.5 acres.
You said you have about 10 acres?
Yeah.
How many kind of feed paddocks is that broken up into, and what is that rotation?
Let's say 10.5, because that's what I have, because that puts me on the tax exempt level. Farm use value, excuse me. I have to pay tax, but farm use. Y'all know what farm use value is? Okay. Do you?
I'd like to hear it.
Okay. What it is basically is for livestock, you have to have a minimum of 10.25 acres, and you have to have at least, it used to be a gross 1,000 income, and then your property tax, you pay what they call farm use, which is different than the actual use. So if I sell this place, then I have to take the last 3-year average of the actual use value and pay that difference in taxes. And theoretically, I guess you're supposed to be saving enough that won't hurt you to pay that later. And with the developments all building up around here, because we first moved here, it felt like we were way out, but we've got 2 developments and about 3 or 4 houses built up this way, and a bunch being built down there. And West Oaks High School is built down there back in 2000. To newcomers, intensive grazing may seem pretty complicated. All the talk about stocking rates and rest periods can be intimidating or just plain confusion. There is nothing terribly mysterious about intensive grazing. One reason is simple, a matter of economics. After 3 years of intensive grazing, our pastures rebounded and became productive again. We're able to accomplish this type of management style by using temporary polywire electric fence with both store-bought and homemade reels. There's just 2 basic principles how our operation operates. I think about how the plants grow, and I think about how animals eat. Concentrating sheep on paddocks creates competition for food. It's like mowing your lawn, everything is consumed. And at the same time, the sheep applying fertilizer to your paddocks. We have not had to fertilize our farm since 1990. Paddocks I have, right now I have it set up so when I put temporary wire just now, I have it probably about 1/2 acre. So it's technically, if I do it 1/2 acres, is roughly about 20 paddocks. Then, like I say, I subdivide those even more. I subdivide them intensely into 1/4 acre, into 33 feet. Like I sometimes stockpile my fescue, and that's when I just move it up 33 feet, and the sheep come up and graze instead of me feeding them hay. Then they'll graze that. Then in a day or 2, then I move up the fence. And during that time of year, in late summer, winter, the grass is not really growing a whole lot. You don't have to worry about them back grazing, so you don't have to have a back fence. But during the time it's really growing, you need a fence here and a fence here to make them eat all what's in between. I keep like a yard, so they keep everything at the right nutrition stage. Like that rye's gotten away from me, which is obvious. That is annual rye I planted in the late fall for early grazing, and it got way ahead of me, and I was waiting to try to get some of the sheep sheared, because when you put them on that lush grass, they get diarrhea in the back, and it's messy to shear them, it's nasty. and so I got a little bit behind, and I just sheared a few of them because I've been doing everybody else's. I need to back out that stuff. It's hard to say no, so I've been shearing for a lot of people, and so mine always like the cobbler. You know, the family doesn't have shoes, so they're always the last ones to get sheared. In my opinion, under grazing is worse than overgrazing. The summer slump in production is a critical time. You need to make sure that you have enough paddocks so that the plants get sufficient rest during this period of slow growth. During the spring lush growth, I open up the paddocks to let the sheep top off the fast-growing forage in order to keep it at a vegetative stage. Spring is not the time to intensify your grazing unless you want to make hay in some other parts of your pasture. Early on, I used to use the gumboot test in order to decide when to move my sheep in and out of paddocks, but I can now eyeball it pretty accurately. Late summer, I usually select paddocks for fall and winter grazing in order to extend the grazing season. Some examples how I do this is like stockpiling fescue or planting winter annuals. I also keep a few paddocks in reserve for early spring grazing. Just remember the last paddock grazed in the winter recovers the slowest in the spring. More paddocks means longer rest periods for the plants. I've been practicing intensive grazing management since about 1986 with about 100 ewes and a few horses now and then on 10.5 acres. I've come to the conclusion that in order to earn a degree in intensive grazing management, you must go through 3 grazing seasons and 1 drought. I have more than that now, and so they're easy to stay together, and so I was able to control my grazing better. So believe it or not, for about, after I got the grazing going good, I didn't feed hay at all until, into the late 90s, I guess, like 1990, somewhere 97, 98, somewhere late, up to 2000, because only time I've had a couple bales when we had an ice storm and it just covered ground, they couldn't get to the grass, but when we had snow, they could, get to it, because what you call stockpile fescue. Did y'all go over that at all, what stockpile fescue is? And say in August, either you mow your grass down or you graze it down, and then you come in most people's cases, put 60 to 80 pounds of nitrogen or so per acre, and it grows up, and that time it doesn't form a seed head, so it just grows up and falls over. It doesn't work in the summertime. It'll do that, but the quality's no good. So in the fall you do it because it's cool, doesn't seed out, grows up, falls over. It's a normal time for you to feed hay. When you do strip grazing with your temporary electric wire, and that's when my 33 feet come in. It works for my 100 head. I move it up 33 feet, and I graze it in a day, move it up again. And so I had enough stockpile fescue, you didn't have to feed hay at all for about a year. Then when I started lambing twice a year, and I started using different rams for different purposes, I've had that group is grazing ahead of this group, and so it really pushed this place to the max. So yes, I am back to feeding hay again, but not as much as most people. But that was pretty neat. I didn't have to feed hay for years. That saved a lot of money too. And I actually had a few years on the right side. I had a guy come up here and cut hay for me on 2.5 acres because the grass got away from me. And this guy who lived down the road would come up and cut hay for me. That about 3 years, and after that I got so many sheep and grazing differently I could keep up with it basically. Or I take my 0-turn mower and go mow it. I don't have any equipment. Everything's by hand, either my mower or wheelbarrow. So everything keeps me young. Equipment over there is called a creep feeder, and that's where the lambs can get in there and get a high protein feed. And so it's cheaper to feed the lambs than it is the mothers, and that way they grow quicker, and then we can wean the mothers sooner.
How much did you spend on that, John? Like, how much are the creep feeders?
Well, that particular one is by Land Lakes, and they sell directly to farmers and deliver directly there in Canada and Michigan, and that one was $1,300.
Okay.
I had another one before that was a lot cheaper, but it didn't work very well. It's actually a goat one where they go under. Tartar makes it. Mm-hmm. And it taught the lambs bad habits, and the half-grown ewes could get in there too. The mothers, that didn't work out good either. So I sold it to a goat person, and then I could justify buying that. And that's why when you intensify the grazing, you don't give them a choice. Because I used to have one small batch, I had a real bad problem of poison ivy, and so I forced them into grazing that, and they would, and then eventually they killed it. And my wife was asking me, said, "Do you think it's going to hurt them?" I said, "If I don't kiss them, it won't hurt me." So it worked out.
So what's yours a mix of?
I got orchard grass here, and fescue, and a couple of clovers. There's some rye has popped up. They graze it. You can't really see it right now, but in a few more days, so the rye will pop back up. And that, I don't know how that got here, but it's rye grass. I didn't plant it, but either birds brought it or somehow. So just if you make the conditions right, the stuff will grow. And you have to get the right sun, get some of this junk off so the sunlight come in and the clover sprout. Now I got a friend to come in a few years ago to spray herbicide because I was getting a thistle problem, and that knocked the clover back for about a year or so. And
Okay.
it's coming back now. That stuff's hard on the clover. But like I say, you want clover in your pasture because it produces nitrogen. People don't like it in the yard, so not to bring it. Technically, like April was saying, if you have, that's one advantage of ultrasound. That way, if you have singles, twins, and triplets, and that way you can separate the triplets and the twins and feed them better. And ones having singles don't need as much feed. And then also the other advantage, when they're going to lamb, what to expect, how many they're having. So if they take too long, you either need to go in there and see what the other ones are or what's going on, or you don't wait it forever. So when she's fat, she's going to have two when she only has one big one. But no, ideally, if I had more land and more lots, I could do that, separate them.
Do you have much problems with pregnancy toxemia?
No, just very rarely I have to get it. Y'all know what pregnancy toxemia is? It's similar, same thing in humans, I think, but it's either you get your ewe too fat when she's pregnant or too thin, so she's not getting enough energy, and if she's too fat, her body can't mobilize it as well, and so they go into a state where you can smell on the breast, like alcohol, acetone, and they can't get up. Success rate is low on it, but if you catch it in time, you can get them through it. They can't die from it, and it just it does happen. Thank you for your time, interest in our farm. I hope that you were able to get some useful information from our video in order to help you. Please check out our website, brasfieldclublambs.com.